Hi everyone, welcome back to Programming Fields. I'm Umesh Rana and today we are diving into something really practical and exciting. Today we are going to build a complete image gallery in Laravel 12 with livewire starter kit. In this video, we will start by letting users upload multiple images at once and you will see how to provide instant previews for selected images. So users can check what is going to be uploaded before anything hits to the server. And the most important part that we are going to cover today, we are going to upload images on AWS S3 instead of local. And also we will fetch the uploaded images from AWS S3 bucket and the database to display them in a responsive, interactive gallery grid. This makes the gallery fully interactive, easy to manage and professional looking. To top it off, we will use Tailwind CSS with Flux UI components to give everything a clean, polished UI without writing complicated CSS. And by the end of this video, you will have a real-world ready gallery that looks great and works perfectly. Alright, let's jump straight into our Laravel application and start building. So I already have a Laravel 12 with livewire starter kit project setup. So I will start with creating a fresh livewire component for creating image gallery, and from there I will upload images to S3 bucket. So I will quickly jump to the terminal and here I will create a fresh livewire component using PHP Artisan livewire make, and I will give the component name as gallery management. Let's hit enter. And yes, the component has been created. Now let's quickly jump to the code editor. And firstly, I will link this component in the sidebar so that we will have option to link that component in the sidebar. So I will jump to the sidebar component. And here, after this users menu item, I will add one more menu item by duplicating this. And this is for image gallery management. I will change the label as gallery management, and regarding the icon I will change this to photo, and for the routes I will set as galleries. Now the same route I will add it for active menu. This is done. Now in order to access this component from this sidebar, we need a route. So I will navigate to routes web.php, and here just after this users route, I will create one more get route using route : get function. And in this endpoint, I will paste that endpoint as galleries. Now this will call our livewire component, which is gallery management : class. Also, let's add name of this route as galleries. This is done. Okay. Now if we'll navigate to the browser and if we'll click on this gallery management, yes, that component has been rendered out. Now we will start designing the component. So initially I will add one title here just in order to identify this component. Okay. So here at the top, I will add one title just in similar to this users listing that we already added, right? So let's navigate to this component. So firstly, I'll click on this gallery management, and from here, I will redirect to this component view. And here we have to add the title. So for this, I will navigate to the listing component for the users that we already created in the last video. So I will copy it from here and I will add between this div. Alright. Now let's quickly update the heading as gallery management. And here in the description, I will change this to manage image gallery from here. Now just after this headline, here I will start designing the form. Okay. So for that, firstly, I will create one div having a space y as 10. Okay. Now in between this div, I will add one more div for form wrapper in which I will set max width of this form. So I will set max width as to Excel MX auto class for keeping it in center, background white, shadow large, and also rounded to Excel with padding 6. Now inside this div, I will open the form element and I will set the submit handler as wire colon submit, and this will call one function as upload. Now between the form elements, let's set a space using class as a space y6. Now inside this div, let's create file input. So firstly, I will wrap that in a div. So let me dock this sidebar first. And here I will create flux input component. So this flux input will have type as file, and also I will set label which will display just above this file input, and this will be upload image, or we can set images because we are going to upload multiple images at a time. And let's bind wire model directive in order to capture the uploaded images from this. So I will set one public property as photos because we are going to upload multiple images, right? And for handling the multiple images, let's add multiple attribute here. And also while selecting the images, we will restrict to accept image only. So for that, I will use accept property, and in this I will pass image /*. Okay. Now after this file input, we need one submit button. So just below this div, here I will create one submit button. So for this, again I will use flux button component with type submit, and I will pass color as blue. Also let's set variant as type of primary, and I will add one class as cursor pointer because in the tailwind by default the button won't have the pointer cursor. And in the button label, I will set text as upload, and we will have this flux button closed. Okay, this is done. Now let's navigate to the browser, and yes, we have the gallery management form rendered. From here we can upload the images. Now let's work on this file upload and form submission functionality. So let's navigate to this code editor, and here we have to define this function in this component class. So firstly, I'll change this function name to a meaningful name, which is like upload images. Okay. And I will copy this function name. Now I will navigate to this component class, which is gallery management. And here, firstly, I will define this function as upload images. Now in order to capture the image from this input, we have to define this property here as public. So just above this function, here I will define public array $photos, and I will initialize it with empty array because this is going to have multiple images. Okay. Now before uploading the images to Amazon S3, firstly we will have to validate it here. So here I will create one function as protected function rules, which is a predefined function, and let's set the return type as array. Now inside this function, we will return rules array. Okay. And here we have to validate this property, which is photos. So firstly, this will be required, and this photos will type of array because we are going to select multiple images, right? And at a time, I will set max file to be uploaded as 10. Also, respective to every selected images, I will add the validation rule. So every images must be a valid image only. So I will set image and I will allow max upload size as 2 MB only. Now in this submit function, I will validate this rule. So I will call $this validate function. This is done. And let's add one comment here as upload images. Okay. Now let's navigate to the browser. And if we'll click on upload, yeah, the validation error has been thrown here, which is the photos field is required. Now let's proceed with this file handling. Okay. So here for handling the file, firstly, we will have to use livewire with file upload trait. Okay. Now when we'll select the image here in this front end, we will have to show the image preview. Currently, I have chosen this image, but here we don't have any file preview. So let's add that file preview here. So let's navigate to this code editor and inside this gallery management view, after this file component, here we will render the preview. So let's check if not empty photos because we have defined this photos as public variable. So I will check with that if not empty photos. Okay. Then inside this if block, I will create one div because we will have more than one image at a time, right? So for that, I will display the image preview in a grid layout. So I will add class as grid and let's set the grid columns as 4 so that in the single row we will have 4 images. And between the images, let's set the gap as 2. Now inside this div, we will have to iterate photos. So let's add photos as $photo. Now inside this, again, I will create one div in order to wrap the image and I will set padding 1 border and round it. Now inside this div, I will render the image. Okay. So for rendering the image, I will be using image element and in the source, I will pass $photo and from this photo, we have to get the temporary URL. So we will be using this temporary URL function and let's add alt attribute again. So this is image preview and we can add class in order to set height and width of this image preview. So let's set width as full, height 24 and we will fix this to cover full width of this div so that we will be using object cover property. Now let's navigate to the browser and let's try selecting any image. So I have selected this one and yes, the preview has been shown here. Now if we will select more than one image, so I will select these 2. Yes, we have preview of these 2 selected images. Now let's go ahead with uploading these selected images to Amazon S3. And for that, you must have one account registered in AWS. Okay. So I have already one account registered and I have logged in it. But if you don't have Amazon AWS account, you will have to create it. Okay. So after creating that account, when you will log in, you will have this type of dashboard interface. And for using the AWS services, I have selected Asia Pacific Mumbai region. You can select according to your region. Now in the next step, for proceeding with the Amazon S3 bucket, firstly we will have to create one IAM user, which is Identity Access Management. If you have previously visited any of the services, you will have the recently visited services here. If not, you can search it from this search option. So we can search for IAM. Okay. Also, you will have this option here in this sidebar. So if you click on this sidebar, you will have all services option. From here also, you can navigate to any specific services. So let's go ahead with IAM services here. Okay. I will click on this IAM service. And firstly, I will create one user. Now inside this IAM, you will have this dashboard interface. Currently, I don't have any user created inside this. That's why this users count is showing 0. Now for creating the user, in this left sidebar, inside this access management, here we have this users option. Let's click on this users. And here we have this create user button. Let's create the user by clicking on this. So for creating the user, you will have to provide the username here. So I want to create this user for handling the file upload functionality only. That means I won't provide other access to this user. So for that, accordingly, I will give a name as file upload user. After that, we have this next option. Let's click on this. Now next, it is asking to set permissions to this user. So we have 3 options here. In the first option, we have add user to group, copy permissions, and attach policies directly. Okay. So in the first option, you can create user in a specific group. Let's suppose you are going to create multiple users and later you will have to give access to every users. So instead of giving access to every individual users, you can keep those users in a group and you can set the permission directly to that group so that all the users which are inside that group will have the same permissions. Next, you have this copy permissions. So if you have any existing user, you can just copy the same permissions from that user and give to this user. In the last option, we have attach policies directly. So from this option, you can set the specific permissions to this user. So we are going to set the permission by clicking on this attach policies directly. Now inside this, we have different permissions policies. Okay. So these permissions policies are available for these services. So for every services, here we have different permissions. And these all permissions are predefined for any of the specific services inside this AWS cloud. Also, we have this button to create a new policy. If you want, you can create a new policy by clicking on this. But as of now, I want to set the predefined permission to this current user. So I will search for S3 because I'm going to upload image on S3 bucket, and for that I'm creating one user. So in order to upload and access the file or images from S3, we will have to create one user which will have S3 permission. Okay. So for that, we'll have to set this Amazon S3 full access. Now when I selected this permission, from 1389, I have selected one permission policy for this user. Now after selecting this permission, let's click on next. Okay. Here we have this permissions summary as Amazon S3 full access. Now next we have this tags, which is optional. Okay. So we are not going to set any tags to identify this user. Let's keep it default and let's click on create user. And yes, the user created successfully. Now after creating the user, let's click on this file upload user. Inside this, we have this security credentials option. So let's navigate inside this. Okay. And if you'll scroll down, here we have this access keys option for this. Because in Laravel, we will have to configure the credential in order to connect with AWS S3. So for that, if we'll navigate to this root folder and here inside config file system, we have the disks array in which we have disk type as local, public, and also this S3. So in order to upload any file or image on S3, we will have to configure these credentials. Firstly, we will need S3 driver in order to sync or connect from Laravel application to Amazon S3. And for this, Laravel provides one package which is file system AWS S3 And using that package, this will have driver to connect from S3. So in the configuration, we have driver, key, secret, region, bucket, URL, and these all. And the same configurations are available in the .env file. So inside this .env, if we'll scroll down, here we have this AWS access key ID and all other configuration keys. So here we will have to add access key ID, secret access key, which we will generate it from AWS. Here we have this access keys of the user. Okay. So let's click on create access key. And here this is asking for which use case you are going to create these access keys. Command line interface, local code, application running on AWS, third-party service, application running outside AWS. You can select which is best suited for you. As of now, we'll go with other option. And here, I'll click on next. Regarding this set description tag, again, this is optional. So just go with this default option and keep it blank. Let's click on create access key. And this has generated the access key and secret access key. Now let's copy this access key. Let's navigate to this Laravel application. And here in this AWS access key ID, let's paste this. Further, we need secret access key so that you can get it from here. So simply I'll copy it and I will paste it here. And regarding these credentials, I will reset it after making this video. So you won't be able to use this. Further, we need AWS bucket. So that we are going to create now. So let's click on done here. And this will just download this file. Let's click on continue. Now in the next step, I will search for S3 service. And here we have this S3 scalable storage in the cloud. I'll click on S3. And here we can create bucket. Okay. And in that bucket, basically we can store image. As of now, I don't have any bucket. So I will be creating a fresh bucket by clicking on create bucket button. Let's click on create bucket. And this is asking for which purpose you are going to create bucket. I will go with default option, which is general purpose. And I will give the bucket name as Laravel upload bucket. Okay. Now just below this, here we have this object ownership. So here the object ownership is specifying the file or images which we are going to upload inside this bucket will have the default ownership. Okay. So you don't have to change this, leave it by default. And further, we have this block public access settings for this bucket. If you want to keep your files private or public in the S3. So this is basically for file access permission. If you don't want to put your file publicly to be accessed, you can just enable this checkbox so that the uploaded files in this bucket will be private. But as of now, I want this bucket objects to be visible and accessed publicly. So I will deselect these options. And here I will acknowledge this. Now further, let's keep these default options as bucket versioning disable. And no need to put any new tag here. And let's go ahead with these default options and click on create bucket. And this said bucket name must not contain uppercase character. So let's change this to lowercase as Laravel upload bucket. Now I will try clicking on this create bucket again. And yes, the bucket has been created. Now let's copy this bucket name from here and let's navigate to this project folder, and inside this env, here we have to add AWS bucket. Let's paste that bucket name. Here we have one more configuration as AWS default region, right? So that we can get it from here. This AWS region is Asia Pacific Mumbai. but here we need AP South one only. So let's copy this region name and here we will paste that. Okay. So the configuration has been done. Now in order to connect our application to S3, we need to install that driver, which is package. So I will check out the official documentation of Laravel, and here we have latest version Laravel 12. I will search for file storage. Now inside this file storage, if you'll scroll down, here we have this driver prerequisites, in which we have this S3 driver configuration. So this is clearly mentioned, before using the S3 driver, you will need to install this Fly System S3 package via Composer. So let's copy this Composer package. Let's navigate to the terminal, and here let's paste it and let's install this package. So this is installing AWS SDK, and yes, this is done. Now let's go ahead with uploading the images. So inside this component, here after validating the file, we have to iterate the images because we are having images in the array format, right? So we will have to iterate the images in order to store it on S3. So I will iterate for each $this photos as $photo, and let me dock this sidebar window. Now from here, I will use photo, which is file object, and I will use a store function. Now inside this store function, we have to pass the folder name, right? So generally in the local, we set the folder name just like this, and we choose disk, which is public, right? But in order to upload the image in S3, we have to pass the disk as S3. So that we already saw here in this file system, we have this S3 disk, and for local, we generally use this public disk, right? So I have given this S3 here in this disk, and I will capture this file path. So this will return file path. Okay. And here I will capture this all file path in one array variable, just like uploads path. This will be multi-dimension array, and I will store this here. So I will capture this here. All right. Now after uploading the images, from here, I will dispatch one toast that we have already handled in the front end. Toast of type success. We'll have to specify the key as type success. Message will be images uploaded successfully. And here we can check if we have uploaded file path. If not empty, then only this will return with this flash success message. Else this will have this error and the message will be unable to upload image and images. Okay. Please try again. This is done. And after uploading the images, I will store it into the database. So for that, let's create one model and migration. So I will type PHP addition make model, and I will name it as gallery image, and this will have migration. So model and migrations have been created. Now let's quickly jump to the migration. So inside database migrations, we have this migration, and here I will create a few fields which will be string, and this will be like image path. I will set this to nullable. That's it only. Now let's add fillable property in its model. So in the models gallery image, I will set fillable, and I will pass this in this array. Now let's execute the migration. So we'll type PHP artisan migrate, and the migration has been dumped into the database. Now after having this table, let's insert the uploaded file in that table. So I will use gallery management model here, and I will use create function. Now inside this create function, I will create one array, and let's add image path as a key. And here I will capture this single path, just like uploads path. This will insert into the database, or better, let me change this to path only. And here I will assign this upload path as $path, just like this. All right, this is done. Now let's navigate to this application and let's refresh it once. Okay, and let's try uploading image. So I will select these two images and I'll click on upload. And yes, the images have been uploaded, but here we have not cleared out this form. I will come to this part later. Now let's verify on S3 bucket. So let's go inside this bucket. And here we can see we have one folder created as gallery, right? And this folder is same that we have specified here while storing the image in this, right? Now let's navigate inside this gallery. And here we have two images uploaded. We have this timestamp, right? We have this file size. And if we'll click on this image, here we have this image property. We have this S3 URI and we have this object URL. If we'll click on this, this said access denied, and we are not able to access this image. So for that, we will have to give the public access to this bucket. So let's navigate to this bucket option and let's click on this Laravel upload bucket. Here we have this permissions. Inside this permissions, we have this bucket policy, which is empty currently. So let's click on edit here, and we will have to generate one policy as public for this bucket so that we can access the objects which are inside this bucket. So for this, here we have the option as policy generator. Let's click on this, and this has redirected on a new page. From here we can generate the policy for S3. Yes, this has opened this. Now inside this type of policy, let's select S3 because we are going to create policy for S3 bucket. Now after selecting this, here we have this add statements. Inside this, we have to pass the principal. Okay, so in the principal, I will set a strict which will specify for all. Now in the next step, we have the actions. So inside the actions, if we'll check for the actions, we have to set the permission to get objects from S3, right? So we will have get object. So let's select this get object only. Now next we have this Amazon resources name, which is ARN. So we will get this ARN from S3 only. Here we have this bucket ARN, right? Let's copy this ARN and let's paste it here. Now let's click on add statement. Yes, so the statement has been added here. Now based on this statement, let's generate the policy. So this has generated one JSON format. So let's copy this policy and let's navigate to this edit bucket policy here and let's paste it. Now here you will have to make sure after this bucket name, which is Laravel upload bucket, you will have to add /* so that this will allow all the objects accessible which are inside this bucket. Now let's scroll down and here we have this save changes. Let's click on this. And yes, here this said successfully edited bucket policy. Now let's navigate back to this bucket and we will try to access the object which are inside this bucket. Now let's click on this first one and here we have this object URL. Now if we'll click on this, yes. Now we can see after setting the bucket policy, we are able to access the uploaded object inside that bucket. Okay, so this is done. Now in the next step, we will list out all the uploaded images from the table and we will render the images from S3 here. So let's navigate back to the code editor. And firstly, I will navigate to the database.sqlite. And here I will check for gallery images table. Here we have 2 images entries. So we have to fetch these here in order to render that. So I will navigate to the gallery management component itself. And here I will create one function as public function load images. And I will use gallery management model and I will use order by ID descending and I will get it. Now I will return it from here, load images. Now I want to call this function in the mount method so that when the component will be mounted, we will have the uploaded images. So inside this mount, I will call this load images function. Okay. And here we will have to assign it to a public variable. So firstly, I will define one public variable, which is gallery items. Okay. And let's copy this. And here after loading the images, I will assign this to gallery items. Okay, this is done. Now inside this blade file, which is component view, here after this form, I will create one more section because this was for image only, right? So here I will create one flux separator and further I will create one div for image gallery rendering. Okay, gallery rendering. I will create one headline just like H3 text LJ and let's set font semi bold, margin bottom as 4 and I will add a title as gallery. Now after this headline, I will create one grid as div class grid columns as 4 and let's add gap as 4 and here we have to render the image, right? So for rendering the image, just above this div, I will iterate loop which is for each gallery items as gallery item. Now in between this loop, I will put this div and here we have to extract the S3 URL, right? So in the database, we have stored the file string only, which is file path. But in order to display the file from S3, we have to generate the full path, which is from a storage facade. And in order to access file or images from S3 bucket, here we will have to generate the full path URL. So let's generate that here in this view itself. So what I will do, I will create one PHP variable as image URL and inside this, I will use a storage facade disk function. So inside this storage disk, we have to pass the disk name as S3 that we already used while uploading the image here. Now from this disk, this provides URL function. All right. Now inside this URL function, we have to pass that file path, which is gallery item. And here in the database, we have the column as image path, right? So let's add image path here. Now this will generate the full path. Let's check this. So I will put dump and die image URL here. And if we'll navigate to the browser, and this said order by does not exist. So inside this listing, here we have to import that model, which is gallery image basically, not the gallery management. This is component name. Okay. And here we have flux separator issue. Okay, this should be flux separator. Yeah, here we are getting the full path URL. If we'll try to copy this URL and access in the browser, yes, we are able to access the image. Now let's render this image here. So let's remove this dump and die. And in this image source, let's pass this image URL. And here let's set some class in order to fix the height and width of the image. So I will set width full, height 40, and object cover. This is done. Now let's refresh this. And yes, here we have images rendered. Now let me just design this correctly. So what I will do, after this grid, here I will create one more div having class as relative. Okay. And I will set border rounded with overflow hidden. And I will just wrap this image source inside this. And what I will do, I will just move this grid just before this loop. Okay. Now if we'll check, this has rendered correctly. Now let's add some action buttons here on these images. So what I will do, I will create one more div for the action, and I will set the class as absolute, and I will fix it from top to right 2 and flex with gap of 2. And I will add 2 buttons here, just like for delete image. So I will use flux button component again of variant danger, and I will set the size SM, and will set the icon as trash. And on this click, I will delete the image. So I will call one function as delete image, and here we have to pass the image ID, so that I will get it from gallery item ID. Now let's close this flux button, and respectively we need one more button so that we can open the image in new tab in order to display it. So for that, this variant will be primary, and here I will set href, and this href I will pass the image URL directly, and here I will set target attribute as blank so that this will open in the new tab. And here I will set different icon for this. So firstly, let's remove this click, which is not needed for this one. And for the icon, I will navigate to the browser, and I will search for hero icons. And here I will look for arrow pointing up right, just like arrow up right. Let's copy this and let's add it here. Now let's save this code, and if we'll navigate to the browser, if we'll check the application, yes, here we have action buttons, delete and open. Let's add class as cursor pointer. So here we'll add cursor pointer. This is for view. Okay. If we'll click on view, image has been opened in the new tab. Now let's work on this delete functionality. So when we'll click on delete, this should delete the image from this S3 bucket. Okay. Also we'll have to delete the entry from the database. So let's implement this functionality. So let's copy this function delete image, and let's define this here. Public function delete image, and we'll have to capture the ID as image ID, and let's put dump and die image ID, and if we'll check out, let's click on delete. Yes, we got the image ID as 2. Now let's go ahead with this delete functionality. So we will have to delete the image from S3 bucket. So what I will do, firstly we have to find the image based on this given ID. So again I will use gallery image find function, and I will pass this image ID, and let's capture this in a variable as gallery image. If it is there, then we have to delete the file or image from storage, which is S3. Alright, delete image from S3 bucket. And for deleting the image or file, Laravel provides a storage delete function. So if we'll navigate to this Laravel documentation again, here at the right side, we have this deleting files. And here for deleting the file, we have this storage delete function. And if you're deleting from different disk, we have this storage disk. So we will use this storage disk delete function. Let's copy this and let's paste it here. Let's import this storage facade first from Illuminate support facade storage. And in this delete function, we have to pass this gallery image and that path, which is column name image path. Okay. Now after deleting the image from S3 bucket, let's remove this entry as well, gallery image delete function. Now after deleting this record, let's trigger this toast event in order to display the flash message. Image deleted successfully. And after deleting the image, we have to refresh the gallery. So for that, what I will do, I will call this load images function. Okay. $this load images. And the same function, we can call it after uploading a new image from here. This is done. Now let's navigate to the browser in order to test this functionality. Let's refresh it once and let's click on delete. Yes, the image has been deleted, but this has not refreshed this entry. So I will come to this part later. Firstly, let's verify it from this S3 bucket. So I will navigate to this gallery folder. And yes, in the gallery, now we can see we have only one image left. Now if we'll verify it from database, yes, from DB also, one entry has been deleted. Now let's fix that gallery refresh issue. And after calling this function, we have to assign the images in the public variable, which we have defined as gallery items, right? So let's call this line here. And also in this delete. And further we have to reset this form after uploading the image. So I will call $this reset function. That's all. Now let's navigate to the browser and let's try uploading new image. I will click on upload and here this gallery has been refreshed. Now let's try deleting again. So if we'll delete this image, yes, the image has been deleted and this gallery has been refreshed again. And that's a wrap. Now you have a fully functional image gallery in Laravel 12 with livewire 3. We covered everything: multiple image uploads, temporary previews, a dynamic gallery grid, and polished UI styling with Tailwind and Flux component. Also, we saw how we can store and handle image in S3 bucket. If you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Also, I would love to hear from you. You can drop a comment below if you have any questions, suggestions or ideas for the next video. So thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video.